The One Piece anime has been running for a very long time and been through many different animators and directors, so there are bound to be some mistakes here and there. Now, this won't be focusing on animation errors like Zoro appearing twice in a shot or having a scar on the wrong eye, but more so plot relevant or consistency errors that came up in specifically anime-only scenes or sequences. And so without further ado, we're not going to waste any time. We're going to jump right into it. And the first thing is the 1% man. Now, hey there, fellow One Piece fans. Are you looking for a way to get your hands on free Crunchyroll subscriptions, exclusive anime Funko Pop figures, maybe even Amazon gift cards up to $100? Well, look no further than Lootboy. With over 10 million registered users worldwide and a 4.6 star rating on Google Play, Lootboy is the app for all your gaming needs. Here's the deal. Anyone can download Lootboy for free on Android, iOS, App Gallery, or PC. Users collect coins to open free packs, and there's a new comic every week to keep you entertained. But if you're really looking for the good stuff, you want to collect diamonds via quests to open premium packs for free, or you can get 2 packs for under $2. Now imagine this, 10 premium loot packs packed full of exclusive items and skins. We're talking about a Shonen Supreme premium pack here, price $1.69 for 2 loot packs or 125 diamonds for each pack. But wait, there's more. If you use the link in the video description and the code B.D.A. 04, you will receive a community loot pack with diamonds, loot coins, and much more. To redeem your code, check redeem code under settings in the app after you've registered. Please note that the code is only valid for new users, and iOS users must use the website to enter the code. So what are you waiting for? Check out Lootboy now and start collecting those coins and diamonds. Who knows what exclusive items and skins you'll discover. In the manga, a lot of people were guessing who this 1% man was, and that Hawkins was curious enough to predict the future of. Now, because Hawkins was only curious about that man, then it must have been someone important. Many guessed that it's Luffy, Zoro, Kaido, Caribou, but after the entire war was finished, we finally found out that man was, well, Hawkins himself. But during that long period of ambiguity, the anime caught up to the initial scene and decided to take the liberty of confirming it to be Drake. And this isn't the kind of thing where Hawkins was put on the spot and had to give a quick bluff, but he said to Drake while he's on the ground, completely unprovoked, "Remember that 1% prediction earlier? Yeah, that's right. I was talking about you and your future." All right, this is clearly a case of the anime taking too much liberty in their interpretation to where they thought it was going to go, and maybe thought it was obviously implied to be Drake, but it's Hawkins himself. Ta-da! Next is the sword break. In the very first episode of One Piece, as soon as Luffy comes out of the barrel, the Alvida pirates attempt to attack him, specifically using swords. And without even attacking them, the swords break in half on contact. This isn't an Arlong case either, where he grabbed the blade and broke it, but rather the blade was cut clean in half mid-swing on contact with his body. Now, in hindsight, this is obviously ridiculous since Luffy is rubber and he has always been vulnerable to slash attacks. He obviously didn't have Haki here, so that should have been impossible. Of course, the anime was just trying to hype him up and make him seem really strong, but it's still a mistake in hindsight. Next, Prometheus swimming. In Whole Cake Island, while running away from Big Mom, Luffy tries attacking Prometheus with Haki without success, which in turn made Jinbei attack him with water and told Luffy that Prometheus is simply a ball of fire. Now, just like Haki wouldn't let you box fire in nature, the same would apply to Prometheus. So hitting him with natural weakness like water is the key, as shown in the panel, with Prometheus screaming pain from a few water shots. Now, fast forward to the rooftop where Big Mom fell off Onigashima. Prometheus proceeds to full-on deep dive underwater, go under Big Mom, pick her all the way up without even losing any size or being in pain. It's like Prometheus unlocked Rio. Now, realistically, diving underwater should have killed Prometheus, since if we treat him just as a regular wildfire, he would have been instantly extinguished. What's even funnier is that didn't need to happen. The anime did not need to have Big Mom actually fall underwater, since that never happened in the manga. But they decided to do it anyway just to prolong the scene by having her drown, get rescued, and regain her breath and consciousness. This will probably be the least justifiable mistake just because of the fact that everything was displayed on screen with no jump cuts, so it's impossible to come up with an explanation without adding in headcanon. Next is Shanks during the Ace flashback. Now, sometime during the lead up to Marineford, we get a flashback of Ace in his pirating days visiting Shanks. This is about 8 to 10 years since he gave his hat to Luffy, and during that flashback, Shanks has both his arms. Now, it is unlikely that this is just an animation error either, because it's not just one shot, but during the entire scene, meaning it passed through and was approved by everyone before being released, so they must have thought this is how it should be. In the manga, it was only 2 panels. You could only see Shanks' head and back. So while they were animating that scene and showing more revealing shots of Shanks, they simply forgot the timeline of events. Next is Luffy using Rio and Dressrosa. Now, this one is a bit complicated, so bear with me a bit, all right? Arm and Haki hardening is coating your body with Haki. The Ryo we heard about in Wano is a subset of Arm and Haki that the samurai used to infuse their blades with by projecting out their Haki outside their body and into weapons, like Zoro was doing, or what the Kuja warriors were doing with their bows and arrows. That's what the explanation of Ryo technically is. It is essential for swordsmen, but Luffy doesn't fight with weapons, so he's only ever needed regular hardening. However, the next level of Ryo is internal destruction, which was necessary for fighting Kaido. But because Luffy didn't know level 1 of Ryo, which all the Haki swordsmen use, he had to go through that first and learn how to project his Haki outside of his body. Now, even looking back since the beginning of the time skip, Oda has constantly drawn Luffy using hardening while making sure not to color his clothes black with armament, because that would be considered Ryo since it extends past the body and into objects. In Dressrosa, however, when Luffy goes Gear 4 for the first time, he removes his sandals for the transformation and knocks Dofi far away. We see that not only for some weird reason in the anime he puts his flip-flops back on when he didn't in the manga, but they were also coated in Arm and Haki. Now again, this would be considered Ryo and part of what he was trying to learn in Wano. And now I can't blame the anime for this though, because it's a detail that requires far more in-depth understanding of the power system, which not even casual fans would have. So it's understandable that something like this could easily slip through. Next, Arlong and Hody. So during Fishman Island episode 536, the anime decided to add an anime-only flashback scene of Arlong saving Hody and his friends from slave traders. Now, while on the surface this seems fine and shows why Hody admires Arlong, it disregards the reveal later on that Hody in fact did not have a reason to personally hate humans, as they have never done anything to him, and revealing his true nature and the horror that Otohime feared the most. The real reason why he admired Arlong and didn't like Jinbei was simply because Arlong hated and mistreated humans, whether justified or not. The theme of the arc was that the racism can be perpetuated and passed down to the children simply through the parents and environments. That's why the kids should not be exposed to Hody's extreme hatred, and it was necessary for them to witness Luffy and the Straw Hats. If Hody was also a target of slave trading, that would turn him into a more sympathetic character like Fisher Tiger or even Arlong, who do have understandable origins for their hatred. But Hody was definitely intended to be the embodiment of unjustified hatred, because he in fact did not have a reason to personally hate the humans, as they have never done anything to him. Next, Who's Allegiance. This one's a small one, was probably missed by many since it's a timeline error, but during the Kawamatsu flashback with Hiyori, which is probably, or specifically rather, 13 years ago, we see Who's Who as a part of Kaido's crew. This was of course before we got contradicting information from Who's Who during his Jinbei fight that he was actually arrested 12 years ago as a CP9 agent and placed in prison for a while, which would mean that Who's Who was a part of Kaido's crew before he even had the Gumma Gumma no Mi stolen. Yeah, it doesn't make sense, right? Rumble Balls. Now, during the Davy Back fight in the anime, we see Chopper actually consume 2 Rumble Balls in a short period of time between them. And this was of course shortly before we reached the Komodori fight in Enies Lobby, where it's revealed in chapters 406 to 407 that eating 2 Rumble Balls within 6 hours has serious drawbacks where Chopper gains new forms but completely loses control over which transformations he can use. In the anime though, he just continues as normal. And continuing off these Rumble Ball shenanigans, in the Return to Sabaody arc, the anime added a filler scene where Chopper eats a Rumble Ball to transform into his forms, but in the manga it was just revealed at the time that Chopper can transform at will without using Rumble Balls anymore, except for Monster Point. It's interesting that Oda was even asked about this specific inconsistency in the anime, and he had to cover for them by saying that it was Chopper eating a candy that just happened to look like a Rumble Ball. The last and by far the most egregious is Batman low-diffing the 5th Emperor. Now, as an honorable mention of something that isn't necessarily a plot hole material but is just so ridiculous that it has to be mentioned is the iconic Luffy and Zoro versus Batman fight. Now, this is coming off of Luffy's fight with Katakuri and not only gaining future sight, but a bounty of 1.5 billion berry and being hailed as the 5th Emperor. It's also probably the most confident and strong Luffy has ever looked thus far in the series, casually using future sight and easily handling any fight situation with ease, as Oda showcased on the beach of Wano. To suddenly struggle this much against a no-name smile user on Kaido's crew is too ridiculous. Now, even after Tama was kidnapped, Luffy gets angry and more serious and tries to finish him off with Haki, a literal Haki punch, only to be completely blocked by Batman's Haki, resulting in a Haki shockwave with Spark flying like it's Roger versus Whitebeard. And it even resulted in Luffy being pushed back and thrown to the ground. It even ends up with Batman flying away without a scratch. He was able to hold his own against Luffy and Zoro simultaneously enough for Gazelle Man to kidnap Tama. Truly, truly, one of the most impressive feats by a subordinate, Ben Beckman, stopping Kizaru, has nothing on this guy when he's dunking on the 5th Emperor and Zoro. Recently in the anime as well, you had a random on Kaido's crew casually going back and forth in DBZ style against Luffy, and I do not understand it. I love the One Piece anime, but these are some things in the anime that's too ridiculous and just inconsistent to the manga that we just had to talk about today.